Welcome to Nitpicking News. Today, we're doing another tier list for you.
This time we're ranking all the dual land cycles in Commander.
I'm your host, Joe Cherries.
I'm your host, BZ, and that makes us the Nitpicking Nerds. I mean, who else? At this point, you've watched the channel for long enough, and if you haven't, please, after this video, go check out our Discord, which is free to join, and then if you like spending money, check out our Patreon, which is not free to join.
Yes, it's the exact opposite of free to join. It's pay to win. Pay to win on this channel.
Yes. What are we doing?
Today, we're just doing another tier list. I mean, we're going to bring up a big old tier list, and we're going to talk about all dual lands. That means lands that tap for 2 colors only. So we're not talking about, like, the triomes. Those are really good, obviously. We're not talking about those today. We're not talking about, I don't know, if they tap for, like, single colors. Like, what's the one that puts, like, a counter? What's that called? Green creatures, essentially, you put a counter in them. What's that one?
Orin Reef?
Boom. We're not talking about that today.
No, we're not talking about that. We're just talking about 2-color, we'll put it in quotes, dual lands in EDH. So this is not only fun ranking, but you're about to get advice and playability stuff for like every cycle of dual land ever. So if you want to know what dual lands do you guys like, well, this is probably a good idea.
Well, but first, before we even start this, we have to shrink. The power of the internet is great. And we're small.
And I found this computer.
Right now?
Not yet. And I found this computer that we can use to put the tiers on. The tier list. The first one on the tier list, chronologically also, is the Aber Duels, the Alpha, Beta, Unlimited, and Revised. Dual lands, they're just all 10 color pairings, plains, swamp. They have the basic land types, and they're just strictly better than basic lands. So
yeah, but I want to say I'm gonna rate them based on how I think of them in all ways, and I'm gonna only give these an A because these aren't available. These aren't out there, and you can't really get these. So even though they're probably the best like lands that tap for mana, it doesn't matter because you really can't get them. We're gonna give them an A. They're really good. If you have them and you have unlimited amounts of like copious amounts of money,
yes,
like coming out of like your armpits, maybe your rectum, get these.
They are some of the only cards that you can fully say our auto includes.
Yes, these cards are absolutely insane. But only getting an A because even the cheap ones are like $300.
That's a land. Next is the Bicycle lands. These are the Amonkhet ally colored and are tapped. They have basic land types, so they're fetchable, and they cycle for 2 colorless.
Yeah, there's nothing wrong with these though. They're great for 2-color decks, especially. You really want them in there. Maybe if you're playing a ton of lands we're going to talk about later. Fetches, these are also really good. I know that I have a couple of these in my Omnath deck because I want more fetch targets.
Yeah, they're great fetch targets. Sometimes in turn 1, you have a fetch land, just put it into play tapped. If you draw it late game, it's not a land. It's a free redraw.
Yeah,
well,
exactly.
2 mana. But, you know, I'm on like C, though.
Yeah, see, I think having types is what really brings these up, but always entering tapped is tough. You don't really want lands that always enter tapped in your EDH deck. But then again, there's the upside of having types, which is really why these get C.
And they're not always lands. If you don't need a land, there's something else. Next, Bounce lands. Ravnica cycle, 10 lands, every color combination, enter tapped, produce 2 mana, one of each enemy or ally color, but they bounce a land when they enter.
I think that these have homes, but not many. They fit into, if you have a way to take advantage of these, really use them. Putting the land in your hand has an advantage, or I don't know, maybe the effect that test for 2 can like maybe help you go infinite. Stuff like that. That is where you want these in your deck. But on average, you have to realize that you have to bounce a land. These become super susceptible to things like Wasteland. They do have the upside, though, of especially if you're on a budget, they're incredibly cheap.
They're really cheap. In your opening hand, if you have Mountain, Swamp, and Rakdos Carnarium, that's 4 mana, but you only have 3 lands in your hand. So in a slower, clunkier meta, it's fine. I don't really ever play these. I will say the one example you were talking about that we literally made a deck around is Simic Growth Chamber. In the AC Commander deck, we had an infinite combo that involved specifically Simic Growth Chamber.
Yeah, so
I'm on D, though.
Yeah, I'm on D, too. I don't think they're poop. You don't want to never play these, but just avoid them. If you're on a budget, they're great. Probably like A-tier budget cards, though.
I think so, yeah. They actually weren't budget for like a year, and then into the dirt. They just got printed over and over. It's great. The next is the Canopy Lands. Obviously, this is a cycle of 6 lands.
The Canopy Lands they tap for either A color or B color. We have all the enemies in one of the allied, which is the the green-white one. They tap for those colors, and then you take 1 damage. You can't make colorless mana with these, so you have to take damage. But you can pay 1, tap them, sacrifice them, and draw a card. I think these are S.
And they enter untapped.
Yes, they enter untapped. The damage is not relevant in EDH, not even close to relevant in EDH. You should play almost as many of these as you can fit in a deck.
Yeah, I play all of the ones that fit. Like when there's 10 Canopy Lands, someone's might need to help me because I'm going to be taking like 17 damage a game off my lands. Yeah, I'll play Ancient Tune, then I'll play Waterlogged Grove, and my mana's perfect forever, and I'm ramping.
I think when you have 4 colors, you don't want to play them all in 5 colors.
You might not want any of them at that point. Colors might be more important, or fetch targets, and then specifically, making these shockland pools that you're going to need the most of. But like 2 and 3, slam dunk, you're playing 1 or 3 of them.
You're playing 1. You're playing 1 or 3. It's weird. It's weird that it skips 2. I was thinking that in my head.
Yeah.
What? You're never going to play 2? No, you're going to play 3.
So yeah, easy S tier. Those are one of the best dual lands in Commander for sure. Like if they're not even that expensive, so you can get your hand on a couple, I would definitely recommend them.
They're not super cheap, but they're not alpha beta duels at least.
I mean, some of them are like less than 10.
Yeah, I think all of them are over 10 at this point, but
close to 10. That's not where I would in my head. That's not where I put these.
Yeah, they're not budget. You're not going to get these in your $50 decks, but if you start spending a little bit more money to improve that mana base, these are one of the first steps.
Yeah, 150, 200, rock and roll. Check lands. These are really close to dual lands because they just say if you have a plains or a forest, Sunpetal Grove enters untapped, and there's all 10 of them, and they're like nothing.
When you build your mana base correctly and you take the time to actually make sure you have the types and everything's good, these are extra good because they come in untapped 95% of the time. These aren't fetchable. That's one of the downsides of them.
But it's not even a downside. It's just not an upside.
Yeah, I guess that's true. They don't have types, but for themselves. But again, enter untapped, make 2 different color mana. There's no life loss here. These are either A or S. What do you think?
I just have an A. They're not like, I think once you get into like my mana base is literally perfect, these are some of the ones that fall off.
Yeah, also I don't think you play any of these in 4-color decks. I have my 4-color Omnath deck plays 0 of these.
Yeah, you might want at most, like if your Omnath deck is primarily Simic, maybe you want Hinterland Harbor, but these are the ones you start shaving before some of the perfect ones. Next, creature lands, all 10. They have an activated ability, turns them into an elemental creature with some power and some toughness. Some of them have activated abilities.
I think these are D tier. I think you really got to have some sort of synergy. Maybe you care about the elemental on it. Maybe you care about something else. I'm not sure really where you want these. I've played like Creeping Tire Pit once or twice, but
yeah,
these aren't the strongest in the world. The creatures are almost never relevant enough. You don't want to leave up the activation cost for it defensively. None of them attack particularly too well, so I just put them in D tier.
Yeah,
low bounce lands.
They're D. They're definitely fine budget because they're just enters tapped duels. Problem is they enter tapped. They don't have types, so you can't find them as much. And the creature part just is not relevant. There's the blue-red one and the red-black one have activated abilities. It's like 1,000,000% corner case. You might combo with those, but all of them just D tier.
Yeah, these aren't even. They're kind of budget. They're like, I think some of the really bad ones are like 2.
Yeah, a couple bucks.
Up to like 10 or something like Celestial Colony.
I think I have like Creeping Tar Pit and Hissing Quagmire are the best ones, just because Hissing Quagmire at least has Death Touch, so it can block. It is the one that can block, and then Tar Pit has unblockable, so it can attack.
Yeah.
Could I have said unblockable any more weird just then? Unblockable.
Unblockable.
All right. These ones are like one of the best cycles. It's the Crowdlands.
The Crowdlands. These are if you have 2 or more opponents, they enter the battlefield untapped. That means if you're playing EDH and it's not 1-on-1, they enter untapped.
Just straight up duels, just without types.
Yeah, I mean, these are insane. The reason that these are going to go in S tier, because they enter untapped, they make 2 mana, there's no checking, there's no anything. They just straight up come in untapped and tap for the mana you want them to. One of the issues is they're not the cheapest, but they're 10 to like 20. They're very, very good, and you should get these if you can.
Pick them up before they spike. The Battle Bond lands have already spiked, and they're less affordable than the Commander Legends ones. Pick them up. You're going to need them for every deck. They're so good.
And I'll explain this again, why we don't have Alpha Beta Duels up in S here with these, because they're $1 million.
I mean, Availability isn't really an issue for anything else because nothing else is never going to be reprinted. Everything else is like, yeah, you can get them. They're magic cards. These ones, no, they're not magic cards. They're secret special cards that are over here.
Yeah, these are game pieces that they printed a limited number of, which is so weird to think about. I want to play chess, but I can't get the pawns.
Can't find any rooks today. Okay, I guess I'm not playing. Next is the depletion lands. These lands just kind of suck. They're old, and they put depletion counters, and then when they like don't untap.
These are poop. So what they do is you tap them for the color you want. Then you put a depletion counter on it, and then at the beginning of your upkeep, you remove a depletion counter, and it doesn't untap. Or
colorless.
Maybe, I don't even remember. It doesn't matter. It couldn't matter less. Using these once a turn for colored mana is absolute poop.
Do not go anywhere near the depletion lands. Holy crap! The next one's a little weird. Fast lands. We got all 10. They enter untapped if you have 2 or less other lands. So only early in the game are they the straight up duels.
Yeah, I think these are very good in really fast-paced, high-powered metas, but they're not great overall. You can usually avoid these. If you're playing 2-color decks, they're great. I'd put them in right away. You pretty much don't even have to. I wouldn't worry about that because especially when you're in enemy colors where you don't have as many duels.
I'll say for enemies, maybe I'm off of them for like if you're just having a non-competitive deck, I just wouldn't even get these.
Oh, I put them in all my 2-color decks. I put like even in my Liza deck, it's not competitive, and I threw in.
There's so many like Guildgate variants that you can have that I'm just not a huge fan of the fast lands.
I'm not talking about I'm not talking about a budget. I'm talking about like I'm not gonna play like I'm beyond playing Guildgates.
Well, they're like Guildgate Plus. After turn 3, it's a Guildgate.
Yeah.
With no frills or anything.
Yeah. What I'm saying is I'm beyond needing to play Guildgate, so I can afford the Guildgate Plus. Is what I'm saying. I think it's a B tier.
Oh, Guildgate Plus was an insult. Like the man lands and the bounce lands are Guildgate Plus, and the bicycle lands at least have types, so you can find them and cycle them. But I have these at like C.
See, I have them at B. I think these are good. I don't have any problem with the fast lands at all. I think they're good, and they're really, really good when you play in
high power.
High power,
sure. Low power,
Yeah, I have no problem with them at all. They are strictly better than any actual tap lands.
These are the ones that are like, for me, they are most emblematic of, I have these and I'm building a trade binder deck. Get in my deck.
Yep, I see any 2-color deck, I just include them in, and usually beyond that, I don't. Like that's it. Like that's where I'm at with them. I only would put them in 2-color decks.
So average that into a response. Splice our words together. Okay, we'll try to make this next one short because these are the best lands. It's fetches.
Fetches. They don't actually tap for colors. They search your library. You lose 1 life. You get either like a forest or a plains if it's like a Windswept Heath. You can get dual lands. You can get anything that has types on them, like the bicycle lands that we mentioned. OG duels, shock lands, which are coming up. That we'll talk about them in a minute. These are absolutely just S tier. They're the best lands ever printed. It's not even close. They're so good, and like I'm not gonna say they should be. They could be considered for banning in any format that they're in.
Yeah, I'm coming around on that. Where I remember at first, like 2 years ago, I'm like, what? But I'm coming around. Why are we talking about if lands have types? It doesn't matter. 90% of the time, we're only talking about it because these 10 lands are ridiculous.
Yeah, and they matter for like certain, like there is cards where it matters, like Fireseek, Nature's Lore. There's certain ones that
like barely. Like, there's like 1.5% of Magic cards care about. There's like High Tide,
Mm-hmm.
Barely anything, and then it's like all fetches. We're just talking about it because we can play 10 fetches in our deck. EDH, the rules, fetches get around the dual land rule, so they're even better because you can just play like 7 fetch lands in your 3-colored deck.
Yeah, I honestly do believe, in my heart of hearts, I've said this a few times on this channel, fetch lands make mana way too good in EDH.
That's what happened in Legacy. It was just, you played 5-color everything because you have fetches and duels. There's no rules. And you had Deathrite Shaman too at that point.
Yeah, at least in Legacy, there's a little bit more policing. You can't reliably draw your hate pieces.
It's 1v1 and there's like Wasteland.
It's like in your 100 card. It's like if you're playing like, if there's Blood Moons and Back to Basics running around, it's like, oh, they're likely to draw those. In a game with 100 cards, they have Blood Moon in their deck, but it's like, they're not that is likely to draw it. Are they going to root for it? I guess.
I'm not worried about it. They're not going to play it on turn 1.
Yeah, exactly.
And I have, 27 lands that aren't fetches, so I'm not hated out. It's not like I have 16 of 24 lands as fetches. So fetches are just completely insane. If you can ever find any, it'll make your deck better. And almost any deck will just be better with fetches. Any landfall trigger, you can replace an island with a flooded strand. Your deck is strictly better.
These are getting reprinted this year. For any players that can afford to attempt to get them, this is the perfect time. When these get reprinted, they will fall down to a solid
20, 30?
20 to 40, depending on which one, because Misties aren't going to fall very far. I mean, they never do. 20 to 40. Get them while you can. I mean, they're just going to go up, and they're very good, and I suggest playing them if you can.
Just the best investment for lands,
Absolutely.
Really. I mean, other than buying actual gold and buying the Aboriginal lands.
We're talking about magic cards.
Filter lands. What are these?
These you tap say they tap for a blue-black. You tap a blue, and it can turn that blue into a black-blue, a blue-blue, or a black and a blue. So these just filter your colors. These are really good. I mean, I really this is probably easy B or A tier. Where do you got them?
They enter untapped. They tap for colorless, so they're not dead like later lands we'll talk about. And they can turn a white into 2 white when you just don't have 2 white. The only downside is maybe you don't jam 3 into your 3-color deck.
Yeah. I think the downside of these ones is that on turn 1 they're not very good. They don't make any colored mana for you if there's situations where you want to play a Weathered Wayfarer in your Boros deck.
Yeah.
You're not going to be able to do that with this land. But other than those situations, it's not too crazy. I mean, you just get to filter into whatever 2 colors. So if you put a red, you can come out with if you have a mountain in this, you can tap for 2 white if you're playing a Boros deck.
Yeah. Oh, you drew 0 plains, 0 white sources except for your rugged prairie.
Yes.
And now you can just make 2 white. Very, very strong lands. I don't know if they rise up to the CDH level, but they're just any highly tuned deck, you can play these, and they're not expensive anymore. Not as they used to be.
Yeah, I think something worth talking about. I think seeing up here, if you're in 2-color decks, you can just throw all these in, all the 2-color ones that you can get. Because that's what I would do personally with these ones. The ones
so far not fast, but I'll say everything else.
I would throw fast. That's my personal thing. Again, I wouldn't throw the ones in D and Poop tier in 2-color decks at all.
Yeah. Next, we have the gain lands. They enter tapped. Produce 2 colors, one of either color, and they gain you a life.
Budget only.
Budget only. I think we can almost put them in. Is that where D is? D is kind of budget only.
Well, I would put them in D. I think they fit in D. They're the bottom of D. But if you're on a budget and you really don't have any other options, these are fine. And this is where you realize that playing the game is more important than trying to just put basics in. It's it's gonna feel really bad if you're just missing a color. No, get these stinky lands. They're way better than a basic in your 3-color deck that needs fixing.
And they're not complete garbage like a depletion land where they punish you for using them.
Yeah, that's horrible.
Some decks even have life gain triggers, so I think these are playable in those decks, depending on what the deck is. Next, Guild Gates, I would say better than gain lands, but only because some cards care about gates.
Yeah, there's some cards that can go fetch gates out of your deck. These work really well. If you're playing a budget ramp deck, Circuitous Route gets 2 gates, puts them on the battlefield. Fine, perfectly fine. These aren't great. Again, mostly just on a budget. But again, the fact that these are available for budget, I'm happy for.
You can do goofy stuff with Maze's End and Reshape the Earth where you just get all 10 gates at once. It's kind of goofy. I like that they're not just tap lands. They have a little bit of extra spice. Here's nothing. No spice. Allied Kamigawa pseudo depletion lands. They enter untapped. They make colorless, but if you want to use the actual color, they don't untap.
They're literally the same exact thing as the depletion lands, except for they tap for colorless. These are garbage. As soon as you use them, you don't get to untap, and that's not good. That's not playable. That's not useful. Put them with the depletion lands. Apparently, I don't know why Wizards went back to this more than once.
Yeah, Kamigawa, just one of the reasons that we skim right over it when we're like, what were some cool sets? The new tap lands. These are the enter tapped, no abilities whatsoever lands. They all have really awesome art to offset the fact that they don't really do anything. On a budget, yeah, these are literally the floor. If your tap land is worse than this, don't play it.
Yep, we're in D again. They're worse than game lands, worse than guild gates. But again, if you're trying to make sure your deck functions and has the mana fixing when you're on a budget, this is the way to go.
Yeah, I'd rather have 24 basics and 6 tap lands and gain lands than 30 basics every time. Next is old tap lands. It's the same thing, but they're old and ugly.
They're old and ugly, and they're Where are they from? I don't even remember.
Like Odyssey, one of those blocks-ish, somewhere around there. Tempest.
Yeah, they answer tapped and they
Do nothing.
do nothing. Yeah, I mean, just again, we're starting to hit a point where they're ugly. I might just put them in poop tier. You don't need this many different tap lands.
I was literally thinking as you were talking, can I justify putting these in poop, but not the exact same cycle?
Mm-hmm.
Yes, we can.
Yes, we can. Because they're ugly. At least the other ones look nice.
Looks matter, and on the opposite spectrum, you don't want your deck to be all tap lands. You already have the Guild Gates, the Game Lands, and the new tap lands. Don't go too past that. If your deck has like 15 to 20 tap lands, is way too many.
I would play. I mean, if I was playing like a 5-color deck and I was on a super budget, I'd play like a million.
Well, okay, yeah, that's
Okay.
different. When we're talking about like a Abzan deck, maybe stick to like 10, 12.
Yeah, that's fair.
Pain lands, enter untapped. Produce 1 or 2 colors or colorless, and you just take 1 damage instead of the land failing to work.
I think these are right at the top of A. These are really, really good. Oh god, they're just so strong. You can just ping yourself for like 10 damage units and never care. So this just being one of the ways to ping yourself. I would play at least in my 3-color decks, playing all of them, 1-color or 2-color decks, playing all of them. These are very good.
Yeah, I never omit these from decks. This is one of the cycles I'm really happy to have the enemies of, because when you're in like enemy colors like Orzhov, you really feel like, whew, okay, Caves of Korlos. It's one of my, I can count on this to be a just untapped duel.
Yeah.
Same with like Vault of Champions. There's only a few of them.
Yeah, exactly. We have both sides of the cycle. It's nice to have allied and enemy fetches, or not fetches, pain lands rather. Very strong. Again, I never don't play these unless I'm in 4 colors or more.
Yep. Well, yeah, once you're at 4, I think it's a pretty steep drop off. Pathways are next. They're all 10. They're 1 land on the front side and the opposite color on the other side.
Yeah, so like if it's a red-green one side's red, one side's green, you can play either side. Interesting thing about them, say it's coming in from your deck, they come out as the side that they are printed on.
Yes, they have to be the front side. You can't choose when it goes into play. These are my actual, all right, auto-include in 2-color decks, and I don't think I would consider them anywhere else.
I agree with that, yeah, exactly. I feel like these and Fastlands for me are like in the same category where it's just like they're only going in 2-color decks. I'm not gonna go any further than that, but hey, in 2-color decks, they're really strong, especially because we've got a full cycle here. Get them in your enemy decks.
They have the strength of entering untapped, but they don't have the strength of, once it's out, you can't produce both colors. So it might make for some awkward things on turn 1. If we had a double green and a double blue spell, you're like, well, that's not going to work for one of these, but they're good lands.
Yeah, they're very good.
Much better than a basic land. Next, the refuges, enter tapped, gain a life, only in Zendikar and only the ally colors.
Yeah, these ones are weird. This again, I think this is a simple. They go right next to the game lands.
Yeah, just right next to them. There's just 5 more game lands for you. Do you want more game lands? Maybe.
Here they are. They're named after places on Zendikar.
Yep, Kazandu.
Isn't there
Jawari Isle.
Jawari Isle.
The reveal lands from Shadows over Innistrad. What are those?
This is you play it, and as you play it, you may reveal, say, an island or a swamp for the Choked Estuary, which is the black one. And if you do, it enters the battlefield untapped. I don't play these at all. I don't think these are very good.
No, they're fine lands, and they're good on a budget, and they're not even expensive, so they're not poop, for sure. Mm-hmm. They just don't crack, the top 12 or 15 dual cycles.
Yeah, I would put these in...
above bounce lands.
Yes.
I don't know if you want bottom of C or...
I like them in D, because I think I like our little thing here, where if it's C and above, you can just, in 2-color decks, if you have these, put these in. But I don't feel that way about these lands. I would just avoid these. I don't even put them in my 2-color decks.
No, unless you're on a budget, then totally serviceable.
Of course, yeah. Again, the budget always overrides these. The only ones we wouldn't put in on a budget are the poop ones.
We think they're unplayable.
Yeah,
we'll say unplayable.
Yeah, and the reason we say, and I know you're thinking, but those ones before, those are the same, but they look ugly. Get the good-looking ones.
You don't need this many. Pick one. If you're going to argue about art, pick one and then don't play the other one. Scrylands, full cycle of 10, enter tapped. Enter the battlefield, scry 1. I think these are like the cream of the crop for budget.
These are the perfect bottom of C tier, where it's like, again, if I'm in 2 colors, I'm always playing the 1, especially in my enemy decks where I'm really lacking the 2-color lands. But as soon as I go to 3 colors, I'm not playing these anymore. But they're fine, and they are very serviceable. And again, if you're in your 3 and 4 color decks on a budget, these are some of the first lands you can start going into, because they're only $1, $2. They're nothing.
Yeah, in Ally, So in ally 2-color pairings, I hate that we have to say this because we don't complete cycles. In ally 2-color decks and 3-color decks, these are some of the first lands you can cut when you say, all right, I really want to tune my deck. I haven't found enough of an excuse to cut. Like I have a blue-red deck, haven't felt comfortable cutting the temple.
I think it's interesting that there's some of the first you're going to cut when you're really upgrading, but there's some of the first you're going to add when you're doing the from budget to like, I want to spend a little money on my deck.
Yeah, when you start from dirt and you go to, from nothing to something basically, where you're like, I got gifted this deck, or I need to start like, all right, let's get the Scry lands. And then you got the Scry lands and you got the reveal lands and the bicycle lands. You're like, whoa, now I want some pain lands and crowd lands. Time to cut the Scry lands.
Yeah, exactly. What's next?
It's the shock lands. You may have heard of them.
Shock lands, we talked about them earlier. They're fetchable. DC play everywhere. They're, especially in Modern, they're like staples, absolute staples in Modern.
They're fair duels.
Yeah, they're fair duels. They come into play untap if you pay 2 life, and they produce 2 colors. I mean, these are S tier, I believe. Probably bottom of S tier. They're the worst of those. I mean, they're probably better than Canopy Lands. Who am I kidding?
The types are nice, yeah.
Yeah, the types are nice because of fetch it, because of, again, we've talked about it, like anything that finds forest, there's nature's lore, there's wood elves, anything that finds, like Farseek, that finds non-forest.
Yeah, so I like them better than Canopy Lands because turn 1, all right, I have Overgrown Tomb. Pay 2 life. No more life will ever be paid. Oh, I have Nurturing Peat Land. I'm going to take like 4 or 5 damage from that on turn 1.
Yeah, you are. Which isn't going to matter much, but
it's better. It's just more damage than 2. It just is.
Exactly. And these are fetchable, unlike Canopy Lands.
And if you have nothing to do, just play tapped and take 0 damage.
Yeah, absolutely.
Signet Lands, these are so weird. They enter untapped, don't produce mana by themselves. If you pay 1 and tap it, you can make, for example, red and green.
Yeah, I think these are the top of D.
Top of D?
They're better than I think they're better than Bounce Lands for sure.
Yeah, I mean, I might put them right here.
I think they're better than Reveal Lands. I would play them before Reveal Lands in a heartbeat.
They're okay. It's really bad if you can kind of forget about them, or if you can get stuck with like, oh, crap. That land is my only one that taps, I just don't feel comfortable with what they're doing. They're not bad. They're really playable if you're on a budget. They really are.
I'm on strong disagree with them below Reveal Lands.
I just think they're about even to me. I don't know.
See,
I'll put them above. I'm not playing either of them in a deck that cares about its mana base.
That makes me feel a lot better.
I'm not like, beggars can't be choosers. If you're a budget, you'll take a duel. A duel is a duel, but as soon as you stop, or as soon as you get some funds for that and can upgrade, get them out.
Yeah, I agree with that completely. They're just whatever, especially because they don't do anything on turn 1. That's always a little sad. You want your lands to do something on turn 1.
These ones are interesting. I'm curious to where you see the slow fetches. They're allied, and they're just fetch lands, but they don't cost life, and they enter tapped. I'm thinking above D. Some of these can be good. They're like the best budget lands.
See, okay, I guess this is weird. I've never had to stretch down to these, and because I've never because for as long as I've played EDH, I've had access to fetches.
Yeah, we just played a bunch of Modern before we got really into Commander.
Yeah, exactly.
So we just had like infinite fetches.
Exactly. So we've always had fetches, and like I know this is coming from like a spot of like, well, I'm just awesome. I don't know where to put these. It's interesting. I think
it's easily here, and I'm debating bottom of C. But if we're doing
we could do bottom of C.
Okay, all right. If you need landfall triggers, like these just go in your deck.
Yeah, exactly. If you need landfall triggers and you're unable to afford fetches, these are the next best thing. They enter tapped and they do the exact same thing as fetches, but these are half a cycle because why wouldn't they be?
Yeah, the super old thing that never got revisited, even though it's not remotely broken and could just go in some limited set that nobody, at uncommon, they could just be lands.
Yep.
Next, I really like these. It's the snow duels from Kaldheim.
Yes, these have types. They enter tapped and they're snow, if that matters for your deck, which sometimes they do.
Yeah, I really like these. Top of D, bottom of C.
I'm definitely no. See, here's the difference. I think these are in C. I think, again, we're definitely talking about when you're in 2 colors. These are just some of the best ones you can have. They have types. They're fetchable with any type of like the good ramp says like go get a mountain, go get a forest. Those are what the really really good ramp says. Especially when you play Farseek, being able to get this makes Farseek just that much better.
I mentally have these above Fastlands because I'm trying them out in my enemy color decks because they're fetchable. And we're so low on duels. If you care about snow, they get a boost. I think they're better than Scrylands for sure. if you have some of the cards that search for them.
They're definitely below Bicycle Lands.
Yeah, I definitely agree with that because those have types too.
they're
I
probably
mean,
below.
I'm like here.
I have fast lands above them, but I'm fine with that. I mean, I understand that the fetchability of these really bumps them up. Again, if your deck cares about snow in any way, if you have one silly card that cares about snow, hey, that's great.
These are more playable than they look for just being a tap land that doesn't say anything on it.
Yeah, they have types. Having types is so important.
The sub print, like the fine print, is like, this card's great. The stay tapped lands, more depletion, right into the poop tier, nestled safely between the other crap.
I have no idea why they went to this well 3 times.
It's so bad. The first time, your game just started. All right, try it out. Didn't work.
Yeah, and then they just went back again. Nope, out of here.
No, the storage lands. These are a little interesting. They produce colorless. If you want to produce colors, you gotta pay a mana and tap it, or just these. If you want to produce colors, tap. Put a counter on it. Now you can pay 1 and remove all the counters to make mana in combinations of those 2 colors, like blue and white.
I think these are poop, in my opinion. I don't think these are good at all.
Sometimes there's like a synergy. I mean, I still think they're budget. I think on a budget in like a blue-white deck, I'd play this.
I don't even think I would play it on a budget in a blue-white deck. I think I would have to have synergies in my budget deck.
Okay,
then I would
so we're saying like
it.
you need synergies for your average deck. Certainly, I guess I've never really played them.
Yeah, and I've never considered playing them. I've seen people play these, and I'm just like, you're storing mana for next turn, but kind of
could just be spending it.
You could just be spending it, using your mana efficiently, or I don't know. These never felt like they were good.
They're probably, you know what? They're just fancy. They're more fancy than good.
Yeah, I guess that's fair.
So just forget about it unless you have a specific synergy, and even then, probably got better stuff. Tainted lands. This isn't even really a cycle. It's blue black, blue red, blue green, blue white.
No,
they're
all
red, black, green, black, white, black, blue.
Yeah,
I just started with blue, and I'm like, everything is blue.
Yeah, no, everything has black in them. These are really good. I think these are just so solid. I would have them. I think I have them in B tier. I really like these. If you're playing black, especially in your 2-color decks, these are great. So great in 2-color decks.
I was gonna say they produce colorless, and if you have a swamp, they produce either of the colors that they say they are.
Yes, I just think these are very good. I would put them if you're playing a black X deck, just immediately throw it in. Auto include.
I think more so the black white and the black green because they're enemies, and you might have some trouble finding those. The others, don't know. Haven't really tried it. Don't have too many 2-color decks.
I haven't.
Slam dunk for budget. Slam dunk.
I'm playing with my Orzhov deck. I mean, I have had zero. You play enough basics.
Well, that's Orzhov. That's one of the ones I said I would definitely try.
Well, what I'm saying is I don't think I've had it enter tapped yet.
You don't have issues.
I haven't had an issue where it didn't produce the black mana yet.
Well,
or the white mana.
It's a check land. It's like a check land, but it only checks swamps. Yeah. So it's like your isolated chapel, but it only checks swamps, but it still makes white.
Yeah, and if it doesn't, if you don't have a swamp there, then it still produces colorless. So
and at least enters on tap, so you can cast a 5-drop on turn 5. Next, the Tango lands or the Battle for Zendikar enters untapped if you control 2 basic lands, and they have types, but they're only the ally color cycle currently.
These are so in my head. These are so entangled with Bicycle Lands as like
it's tough because they did it back to back.
They're very similar, very samey.
I think they're better because they can enter untapped. I don't know though. They're still not great. They're not very. They're in like C for me. I think they're just top of C.
Yeah, they're C. I think their Bicycle Lands are better in 3-color and up decks, and Tangle Lands are better in 2-color decks.
Okay, because your 3-color decks have way less basics.
Yeah, exactly. You just don't have a lot of basics in your 3-color decks, so you're not going to have them come untapped ever, which means that they come untapped. So I just want the upside of cycling them.
Yeah, that's exactly what I was going to say. All right, now we have Pain Lands, but they enter tapped. They're the oldies. Not a fan.
I mean, I think these just fit. These just fit with our gain lands and all of that stuff.
Yeah, not a fan for
budget, purely budget.
Tuned decks. Probably like below Creature Lands. At least the Signet, Reveal, Bounce, and Creature Lands have like some frilly stuff. This is, hey, it's a tap land, but also we're going to punish you. So you know what? Actually, it's just worse than a regular tap land.
Yeah,
it literally is. It's just the worst.
Yeah, it's the worst of these. Actually, it is. They are better than the ones we put in poop, but they don't look as poopy.
Oh yeah, That's fair.
I guess you know what? Let's move to poop. I guess we're just
Same deal.
I think I'm giving it credit because it's a tap land and like it seems fine, but it's actually probably just bad.
Yeah, new tap lands.
Again,
They're really the new tap lands are the floor.
I know why this was linked here. They were linked to pain lands, and pain lands are good.
The pain lands are great, and it's like, wow, it's a pain land, but it just enters tapped. Wait, I'd rather just have a tap land.
Yeah, exactly.
I'd rather have almost anything.
Yeah, exactly.
All right, these are the tapped snowlands.
Without types.
Tap typeless snowland. That's what the TT is.
Yeah, tap typeless snowlands. These are poop. These are if you care about. I guess they go in the bottom of D. I guess I lied.
They're the new tap lands, but with the most minor upside you've ever seen.
Yeah, if you don't have any ways to fetch tap lands or anything like that, they're the same as the other ones, I guess.
Yeah, if your commander is Narfi, snap off the black blue one.
Yeah, I mean, if you care about snow, then these are fine.
And lastly, the tribal lands. We have like Ancient Amphitheater, for example, is red-white, produces red or white, but then there's untapped if you can reveal a giant card from your hand.
I think these are in B. I think these are really good in the decks they go in.
The tribe.
But they don't go. But you have to be aware that these only go in. I think the only reason they're not higher is like obviously in a giant deck, it's Ness. Okay, it's obviously one of the best lands in your deck. It's insane. It comes in untapped almost all the time.
Elves.
Yeah, the Elves one's very good.
How soon? Because Masked Vandal slightly changes all of these lands. Well, at least the elf one and the whatever the green-blue one is, if there even is one. I can't think of them all, but
no, there's not a full cycle. It's not a. There's like
it's frustrating.
It's weird. I think there's like 8 of them, and not all of them are even dual color. I think there's one for elementals.
Oh yeah, the Flamekin Village. It's just red.
Yeah, yeah. So there's the giants, elves, merfolk.
Merfolk is blue-black? Or is that blue-white? I think it's blue-white.
Blue-white, yeah, it's blue-white.
I hate these lands.
Fairies.
But yeah, if you're doing the thing, these are here for you. Otherwise, they're just poopy Guildgates.
What other one are we missing?
Is Murmuring Bosk one of them? That was the Tree Folk one.
It is also
it's
one
3
of them.
colors.
It's 3 colors, yeah. The cycle is like not a cycle. It's
just
weird.
Nonsense.
Yeah. But that is our tier list. Definitively correct. Don't bother arguing with us. Doesn't matter because
we nailed it.
I mean, there's nothing. This is perfect. Literally perfect.
We probably triggered people on the very first one.
What do we
put? Aubers in A. Perfect list. Let us know how perfect it was in the comments. You can also be one of these people who are currently scrolling. Poopy Babies. They're patrons of the channel. They support us and they make everything possible. Literally, you're watching us because we have patrons.
Yes, we appreciate you guys as much as we can without making you uncomfortable. You guys are awesome. Thank you for the support. Every time we get a new patron, it makes me smile.
Big time melatonin? Dopamine? Which one is it?
It's not melatonin.
Serotonin.
It's serotonin.
What's melatonin? That's the stuff that helps you sleep.
Yeah, melatonin is the stuff that helps you sleep.
Dopamine. Big time. I go right to sleep whenever we get a patron.
What is dopamine? Isn't dopamine?
I think that's pleasure. And then like serotonin is
the happy chemical.
Happy? I think we got there. If we got it wrong,
Geniuses.
You have to comment and let us know if we got it wrong.
We did it.
No, we did.
Doesn't matter.
We didn't. Just like the tier list, that is correct.
Yeah. Objectively?
Yes. Even the part where we put strictly worst tap lands above tap lands, that was correct for the moment. Yeah. And then when we moved them back to the correct spot, that was also correct.
Yeah, we figured out our mistake. Actually, there wasn't a mistake. Time passed and things changed.
Yes, there was no mistake.
We've never made a mistake.
Do you have a tidbit before we close out this particular video?
Well, I was going to tell them that if they want to support us, they can go to the TCG player link in the description below. Especially if you're not, you can get any of these lands on TCG player. And if you use the link to get there, our link, you will be supporting this channel by just purchasing Magic cards that you were going to buy anyway.
But if you buy one of the ones on the poop tier, my hand will reach out of your computer and slap you in the face.
Dang.
Yeah.
Now you're just threatening people?
No, that's just a promise. You know, what did Paul Heyman say? It's not a prediction, it's a spoiler.
Yeah, it's not a prediction, it's a spoiler.
Yeah. So please buy D tier and above. But that's all we have. I mean, what do we want to do for tidbit? We talk about the shorts we've been doing.
Yeah,
now that we have 4 of them out.
We've been doing shorts. Basically, they're just 1-minute short videos about random topics, and we just
sometimes it's a skit, sometimes it's actual information. Probably sticking more to the information. A lot of people seem to have liked them as kind of like a regular thing. So what we're trying to do is we're going to throw them out there for 2 weeks, see how people think. So we're almost halfway done.
Yep, exactly. So That's this video. Peace out, Tribe Scout.